So today I just want to take a couple minutes to look at options and resources that we should be making sure we're showing students how to do in the TestNav, and just sort of making sure they're familiar with that program and software that they'll be working with when they test. So again, just to get into the TestNav, you can log into Canvas. There's also a link on desktops as long as it's not a Chromebook. But if you log into Canvas, or if you have your students log into Canvas, okay, we should have everything set up at this point that they should then be able to log into any of their courses. And then on the left-hand side in the navigation over here, we should be able to click TestNav 8. And then we'll open that in a new tab. So if you click on the top tab, right, this top one, which is Grade 10 Online Experience, and then we'll click Start. Okay, if we take a look at this graphing option here, a couple of things just to point out with graphing, right? So when they click on one of these, the correct shape is going to come up, and then they'll just have to drag the 2 points around. So with lines, right, they're just going to find these 2 points, and they'll be able to plot and move the 2 points that they're given. I found that with the students, once they click and it sort of makes the line go away, it's a little bit easier for them to drag and count to get the correct line that they want. Quadratics is a little bit more tricky because this point right here always functions as the vertex. So it's not like they're clicking 5 points and then clicking quadratic and it's drawing it in. You need to make sure that you're dragging this point that's already on the vertex to the vertex. They can't just plug in any 2 points and plot 2 points and still get the right shape. So they have to be finding the vertex, and this one needs to be going at the vertex. And then this needs to be your other point on the graph. So sort of making sure, right? So if I move this one down, this won't make another downhill one, right? It automatically goes uphill because opens up because this is my vertex point. So just making sure we're getting those points in the correct places, and we know that one point is functioning as a vertex and that the other point is another point on the graph. So that definitely takes a little bit of time to make sure the students are familiar with that and getting that to graph the correct quadratic. Exponentials is going to also give us 2 points, but then they also have this piece with the asymptote that they need to be dragging around, right? So we can move these 2 points. Right, again, it's a little bit finicky, but then you can move this asymptote with it. Okay, but they have to sort of drag that around to get those points where they want them to be. As far as I've noticed, we can't do anything with half points. So I would assume we would have a little bit better of a graph if that's something we would need to be focusing on. Okay, again, just making sure that they're familiar with the being able to select multiple choices, being able to get this on the number line, and then understand that they're dragging and dropping. Chromebooks are fair game, laptops are fair game as long as they're school laptops. So making sure they're being able to drag and drop on a laptop as opposed to not having that mouse, that handheld mouse. Right? There's screens that they can drag down and select. This loads. Okay, dragging and dropping is pretty straightforward, but again, if they don't have a mouse in their hand, making sure that they're able to drag and drop, plot some points in. Then some other things that we should make sure they know that they can do. So with the words, if they click and drag, okay, they can highlight things by then selecting something. So if they had 2 different colors that they wanted to highlight, right? So they'll click, drag, and then they can select what they want to highlight. They can then undo that they want it highlighted. Okay, so that's a piece that they should be familiar with. They should be familiar with the fact that they can bookmark a page. So if they click this right here, that will sort of tab it for later. I'll show you how they can look at that. They should be familiar with this review piece, which will show them questions that they haven't answered. So these yellow circles are telling them that they haven't answered them. This blue bookmark is that they have it tabbed, right? This little thing here is telling them to go back. They wanted to review that. Okay, students should also recognize over here in the top right-hand corner, I guess if they want to change the background, right, they can change that to whatever their favorite color is, makes their eyes feel less stressed or just makes them happy. Okay, they can sort of change that to different options. Underneath that selection over here, they can also do this show line reader mask. And this is kind of nice either for students with IEPs and reading, but it's also nice if they want to cover portions of graphs to interpret this. Okay, but they can sort of drag and drop to make this whatever size and then drag this down. If that's something they want to be able to use, they can drag this around sort of however. So that's something they should be able to do as well. And then finally, being able to type things into this open-ended response box, which is our extended response typed answers. So like we were saying, some things that we should look at are making sure they can find their fractions, their square roots. That's all underneath the math symbols. The statistics has their subscript. Okay, so that's down here. But some tricks that you might want to consider. So for example, if they want to enter the slope formula, it's a bit tricky if they want to do y and then sub 2. They want to actually select that they want the subscript first and then fill in both of the boxes, which is a bit tricky. So they have to sort of watch where their cursor's at in the line, right? So this will continue to be in the subscript if I continue typing there. So instead I need to press my cursor over to make sure I get out of the subscript. Okay, and that's where students really were struggling in my class of making sure that they're getting in that correct line to have things in the right place. I am actually not getting that right now either, so I'm going to put my subtraction in first. And then I'm going to try and put my subscript in front. Right, you'll definitely want to play around with this. Yeah, I don't know. This is not cooperating right now because these are the same. Right, there it is on the upper level. See how that shifted my cursor size? There we go. So this is my subscript. It's just really finicky, so make sure you're taking time to do that. Then to enter a fraction with this, they'll also then want to highlight it because they want the entire thing to be in the fraction, not just some of it to be in the fraction. So they really need to make sure they're getting sort of familiar with that. Another thing that's worth recognizing is whether they want to do a square root and then type inside the square root, right? That can be a little bit tricky. They'll have to make sure they're inside the square root each time they type. Okay, the other option is that they can type, oops, not an equal sign, let's put in an addition sign. They can type and then they can highlight and then put the square root after that. Okay, so I've included a worksheet document of some things you might want to mess around with and make sure that you can do, because those would be things that the students would also need to be able to do in this view. So let me know if you have any questions getting those things typed in. Otherwise, find some time to take your kids to the lab and practice entering these types of things into the test nav.